Tonight on the show, it's Joker, the 2019 crime dramedy origin story about the infamous Batman villain of the same name.
Hello, kiddies!
Yeah, hi.
Vic and me just got back from watching the new Joker movie.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I might even say it was a true masterpiece.
Hey, listen, I want to get this out here right now before we start the review, okay? If you have not seen Joker, I implore you to go and see it. Don't listen to the critics. Go and watch the movie and judge it for yourself.
Gee, Vic, I knew we both liked it. I just didn't think you'd like it so much.
You called it a masterpiece. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, Joker's great. Go see it. It's got a great old school feel, a great soundtrack, and it's the best character study you could ask for if you want a Joker origin story.
It's got a great pace, and it even makes you laugh at the most inappropriate times.
Sunny and I are very experienced with laughing at inappropriate times, and getting beaten for it.
Just like the Joker!
Okay, so we said the movie's good and people should go watch it. So can we please ruin the movie now?
Okay, kids. If you'd like to avoid the spoilers until you've seen the movie, stop the video and go watch the Joker movie. Now! Otherwise, skip to this part of the video for the wrap-up. Okay, Vic, open the floodgates and vent your spleen.
Okay, now look. For months now, before this movie came out, there's all these critics out there trying to drum up scare clicks over this movie, and it's bullshit!
Agreed!
I read a lot of these criticisms and I wondered, gee, how can people who watch movies and review them for a living, who have probably seen every movie under the sun between Francois Truffaut and Gaspar Noé, have to pretend that a movie about a comic book villain is still so dangerous and scary for real that they feel compelled to forecast events of violence?
Yeah, if Joker is so derivative and predictable as these critics say, then these critics, who do nothing but watch movies all day, would have had their minds horribly scarred ages ago, having been exposed to so much dangerous art.
Ooh, the scary Joker's gonna get ya! Ooh! Wow!
Ooh.
Wow!
Ooh, ah.
The worst part about a lot of these reviews are that many of them claim to get the point. They even address the actual issues that Joker brings up.
And embodied in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in a way that's more true to life than any previous depiction of the character.
But the movie itself is still absurd and abstract enough to maintain the sensibility of comic pulp fiction.
If you kids like a good, gritty, late grindhouse style, then this is the Joker for you.
All of the reviews harkening back to Scorsese classics like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy are right.
And the critics are acting like it's a bad thing, as opposed to enduring the same old fun comic book movie aesthetic that everybody's also well aware of. Todd Phillips isn't as good as Scorsese, but that doesn't make this movie bad. And what's wrong with using one of the greatest living filmmakers as an inspiration? If Scorsese made a comic book movie, he'd make the best fucking comic book movie ever made.
That's probably not gonna happen, Vic.
I know! But you think these critics would know that too? You can't complain that Joker is a comic book movie that isn't smart enough to be a Scorsese crime drama, and also complain that it isn't a dumb comic book movie. Joker is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't in their eyes. Oh, we don't like how he didn't make our silly murder clown a silly murder clown who is also serious but also not. And this is too much of a comic book movie, but also not. What?
Okay, Vic, the critics are being snooty, rigid, and in some cases, downright alarmist.
That's right!
And you hate comic book popcorn movies. We know that old story, too. We get it. We're not movie critics. Are we, kids? Oh, wait.
Okay, I'm not gonna crap on Batman or anything, Sonny. You can relax.
Me relax.
I just think it's highly irresponsible what the media is doing. And even worse, it's insulting to movies and artistic expression in general. Also, it really gets me thinking that maybe we aren't the creepiest, most despicable movie reviewers on the planet.
Oh, we're creepy, Vic. But we'll never be mainstream media creepy. Those guys are weird. Look, kids, Vic and me like a lot of movies. But we don't always agree on what we like and dislike about the movies. And that's okay. We want different things out of movies sometimes. I like it when it goes all flash, flash, boom, boom. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah.
And that stuff just usually isn't my thing. But I do love pulp crime and character studies about weird loners and psychopaths.
I got him. Yeah, take that, Hitler. Me too. And some of our favorite movies are the ones that have just enough of what we both like in them to entertain us both.
The Joker definitely had that.
It was more of a downer than the standard superhero movie.
Yeah, but for people to expect a fun, lighthearted, R-rated origin story of a supervillain, a guy who could beat a boy in short pants to death with a crowbar, is totally unreasonable. What, did you miss the fun old days when Joker used to blow up Gotham Hospital? Oh, but tee-hee, it's funny because he's dressed as a nurse. Get it? See? Isn't that funny?
That was funny.
Look, I'm not saying that blowing up a hospital isn't funny. What I'm saying is that the character of the Joker is a volatile bomb of a human being. He's more than a human being. He's become something that represents the pure absurdity of the human condition. Nothing means anything to him. Everything is a joke. That includes his life and everybody else's. And these movie critics...
Oh, jeez.
These movie critics want to act like a villain just gets shot out of the cosmos like an extraterrestrial.
Actually, some of them do.
But Joker isn't an alien. He is human. And if you want to ask yourself how humans both succumb to and embrace madness, you probably shouldn't be making a lighthearted feel-good movie.
The Joker's had a few different origin stories over the years. And he's kind of famous for being a character who can't ever get his own story straight, which is a personality quirk that, well, it just fits. But the Joker's destiny is also usually tied to Batman's in fundamental ways. The most fundamental way, perhaps, is that they're both characters that have been shaped by the corruption of society.
That's right, and Todd Phillips' Joker hits that core element and hits it hard.
Joker's Gotham is a lot like New York before it got all Disney-fied. It's scummy, seedy, and on the verge of collapse. Everybody knows that Bruce Wayne becomes the Bat because his parents are murdered.
Batman becomes a vigilante in response to the corruption and crime in Gotham. And ironically, many of his efforts to eliminate the criminal element in the city have the unintended consequence of creating more extreme criminal personalities. The Joker has been an example of this ironic process in the past, but in this movie, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Joker, his legal name is Arthur Fleck in this movie, is a destitute man living with mental illness, trying to care for his invalid mother and working a degrading job as a clown for hire. All the while, dreaming an impossible dream of making it big as a stand-up comedian. But there's no hope for Arthur. Even heavily medicated, he's still just barely holding it together. And the mean streets of Gotham are slowly tearing him down. You really sympathize with him early on.
And guess who thinks that should be a bad thing?
Psychopaths?
Close! Movie critics. These assholes seem to think that you shouldn't in any way identify with the protagonist of a movie, even if that protagonist ends up not being a good person. They're actually arguing in support of bad writing.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. You can, and should, sympathize with any character's motivation in a story. At least to some extent, if only to understand their rationale. Simply saying that a monster is too simplistic. And to be honest, it ends up making their monstrous deeds less shocking. Think about it. Why is Frankenstein's monster so memorable? Why were his violent acts so shocking? Precisely because he isn't just a monster. He's also human. Or something like it, and he's a victim of his own monstrous circumstances.
Right, but nobody's complaining about Frankenstein being a sympathetic monster. That's why people love him. When a monster is human, all too human, people are forced to face that side of themselves, and understandably it makes them uncomfortable. But that's always been an integral part of what Batman's universe is. It's the embodiment of the Nietzschean aphorism. He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster.
Bruce Wayne is still a boy in this universe, but his father, Thomas Wayne, represents the tip-top of Gotham elite, the next in line for mayorship of Gotham City. And he isn't exactly portrayed in a flattering light. Arthur gets put on the fast track to becoming the Joker when he's assaulted by 3 drunk, obnoxious Wall Street guys, yuppie employees of Wayne Enterprises. A panicked moment of self-defense quickly turns to murder and a twisted act of self-actualization.
And when Arthur learns that his mother, a woman who's pretty mentally ill in her own right, has been hiding the truth of his birth from him for his entire life, it sends him over the edge. Now, it's suggested that Thomas Wayne might be Arthur's illegitimate father, but his search for the truth causes all of Arthur's old childhood trauma to come flooding back. No, Arthur was an adopted orphan, beaten so severely that he'll have lasting neurological damage for the rest of his life. And his mother, also battered, and suffering from a narcissistic personality disorder, did nothing to protect him. It's possible that she and Thomas Wayne might have actually had a secret affair when Arthur finds an old photo with a suggestive note attached to it. But it could have also just been another one of his mother's self-deceptions. In the end, it doesn't matter to Arthur. At that point, nothing matters to him anymore. His true origin remains a cruel mystery. His life is a big joke, and he can't help but laugh at it.
It also didn't help that the political muckety-mucks in Gotham decide to slash the funding of public health programs.
An all too real scathing critique on how society can treat both the mentally ill, the poor, and the ones who try to provide help for them.
There's also this neat line we see in Arthur's diary/joke book. I think it said, the worst part about being mentally ill is that everybody expects you to behave as if you aren't.
Point is, society has failed people like the Joker. At the outset, at birth, at childhood, at the point when the most deep-seated psychoses develop, and it never stopped failing him. You can look at real-life examples of serial killers, spree killers, and otherwise infamous baddies, and see the parallels. It doesn't excuse what they do, but it explains much of it, and it should teach all of you humans a lesson about what happens when you don't care for each other.
Hear, hear!
But of course these critics
Aw, come on, dude.
would rather you see the Joker and his real-life counterparts as inhuman, monstrous caricatures. Evil for evil's sake, because they're all a bunch of elitist, unsympathetic assholes. Remember all the incel pejoratives? Never forget how these jerks were almost frothing at the mouth for a mass shooting, just so they could pat themselves on the back, write more articles, and profit from all those tasty tragedy clicks. Fuck you, media!
Evil is such a clean, simple, easy to understand mechanic. It doesn't need a backstory. It doesn't need to be understood. And of course, evil keeps coming back because evil doesn't stem from anything other than itself. It's a magical force with no real solution. So you keep putting on your armor and keep fighting it until suddenly your armor doesn't look so shiny anymore.
Yeah, it starts to look pretty dark, in fact.
Yeah, Dark Knight! Woo!
That's right, Crit Lord Vapula. The Cape Crusaders' one-man war on crime is a big part of the paradox of violence. At one extreme stands the Bat, and at the other stands the Joker. This movie does a great job at setting the stage for that.
It also does a great job of explaining how a maniac like the Joker could form a crime syndicate. Joker himself doesn't care about anything, doesn't believe in anything. Anything but the joke, that is. But he becomes a figurehead for the downtrodden in society at just the right time. Partially thanks to the media, of course. It's easy to see how he could manipulate a lot of people into seeing him as some kind of revolutionary. But of course he isn't. He just wants to, you know.
See the world bird?
Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah, Vic, it's pretty great how it's all set up. Seeing how a Batman would fit into this gritty setting would undoubtedly be a fresh take on the character.
Yeah, too bad Todd Phillips apparently has no interest in doing a sequel. A grindhouse Batman crime thriller would be fantastic.
Well, the movie didn't end with the Joker dying or anything, so you never know. Of course, Todd Phillips could just be bullshitting a little to drum up interest. He's not above that.
Certainly not.
Yeah, like how he said he wasn't gonna do comedies anymore. Joker was so funny, I laughed my ass off. Then, I laughed my face off. Then, I laughed the face that's on my ass off. Remember the part where he stabbed the big fat clown to death? And then he let the little person clown go? But the little person clown couldn't reach the lock on the door, so the Joker had to let him out? Ha! That was funny.
Yeah! That was funny. And it was a nice release from an otherwise tense and violent moment in the film.
And remember when he's dancing around in his clown getup, entertaining all the sick kids at the hospital, and the gun falls out of his pants? Ha!
Also funny.
And remember when he smothered his mom to death with a pillow? Ha! You don't get it. Point is, Todd Phillips has no real problem with making a comedy. If he was quitting comedy because he doesn't want to deal with social media backlash, then he wouldn't have made a movie like Joker. He was just poking the bear to make sure it's as woke as it claims to be.
Yeah, and I can think of more than a few little review bears who must have been hibernating while pretending to watch this movie. What? You know I'm right.
Yeah, Vic. Movie critics suck. We've been over that. Like, A couple times.
Fine. But the point is, look, we all agree that the Joker is a villain, a criminal, a psychopath, a human monster, right?
Sure.
Yeah!
And we can also all agree that he's a funny character. Like we can laugh at a terrible thing he does, or in spite of a terrible thing he does.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason why the Joker is such a great character in the first place is because he's such a great embodiment of that interplay between tragedy and comedy. Something that's been present in everything from Shakespeare to, well, Scorsese.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love Joe Pesci.
Funny how?
And Hamlet was hilarious.
So what did you think of Joker? Oh, great Lord Vapula?
Well, I thought the violence was pretty cool. This was probably Robert De Niro's funniest role since King of Comedy. I really love the part where Joker shoots him in the head.
Yeah, okay, but what about all the other stuff?
I don't really give a shit about people's boo-hoo backstories. Also, this movie had a little too much Joaquin Phoenix dancing around in his underwear for my taste.
One thing that kinda bothered me was how they went about showing that Arthur's romance with the super cute neighbor next door, played by the lovely Zazie Beetz, was all just a hallucination. As soon as it started, it didn't feel like it made any sense.
Yeah, Zazie's a total babe. Arthur was a complete mess. It didn't make much sense.
I felt better about it when they revealed the delusion, but the callback montage to all the times when he thought he was on a date felt unnecessary. Also, as the movie built to an ending, it got more comic booky. The Joker reminded me a bit of Peter Finch's classic turn as Howard Beale in the 1976 classic Network,
Just leave us alone.
but way more over the top and on the nose. When he finally goes off on his rant about society, it was a little too clumsy. A little too cartoonish. But it's my fault for expecting too much from a movie about a crazy clown. I'm not gonna pretend this movie is something it isn't, like one of those dumbass movies.
Movie critics, yeah. Well, I thought the movie was just great. It had one foot firmly set in the world of comic book movies, and the other foot in the world of the neo-noir psychological thriller, and it mixes the two perfectly. You shouldn't let those critics get to you so bad, Vic. The vast majority of people are loving this movie. And for good reason.
Say it, guys. If Todd Phillips doesn't do a sequel, that doesn't mean he won't do another comic book movie, right?
Well,
I guess not.
Right. So, who do you think you should cover, huh?
Well, I guess we'd be interested in seeing any of them, really. Whether it's villains like Catwoman, the Penguin, Two-Face.
ooh, how about Swamp Thing? Or Jonah Hex? Or Deathstroke?
How about Lobo?
Ooh.
You guys are all wrong. What the world needs right now, more than anything, is a gritty, realistic crime drama about the Wonder Twins.
I don't like the monkey.
No.
No. Well, how about Apache Chief? The dog welder. Crazy Quilt. Ooh, I got it. Bouncing Boy. It'd be a heart-wrenching tale of a boy afflicted with childhood obesity. He flips the script and becomes a human beach ball. Everybody likes beach balls. It's the classic underdog story.
That sucks.
Well, how about Aqualad?
Alright, this video is over. Hey, kids! Hope you liked the video. If you did, do us a favor by clicking that like button. You could also subscribe. But if you do, make sure to ring that notification bell so you'll know as soon as the next video comes out. You could also leave us a comment about the movie, or the video, or anything else, and it could end up being in a future episode. If you want to share this video, that'd be pretty frickin' cool of you. It all really helps us out. If you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, we've got a link up, but just watching the video is a big help, and we really want to thank you. So, thanks! See you next time! Bye!